Hi, my name is Irene and I'm the founder of Happy Fit Yogi. Today I'm going to explain you how to use the yoga blocks, why they're important and how they help us in our practice. So yoga blocks are this, and they're sometimes made of cork, so they will be different from this, or made of foam. My ones are made of foam, and at the studio I like to use cork. They're just different and it depends on your personal preference. Foam is a little bit softer. It's really nice to use for relaxation, which I'll show in a minute. And cork is of course a little bit stiffer and a little bit harder, and it's better for support, whilst these ones tend to be a little bit lighter. However, they are both good, so it depends on what you can find locally. I always say in my posts and on my yoga for weight loss guide that you can use a book as well if you don't have a yoga block, and that is somewhat true. You can use a big book, that we all have books like this big at home. However, a book can be only used flat, whilst the yoga block can be used in three ways. And one it's flat in this way, so it's on the lowest setting, and one it's on the medium setting, and one is on the highest setting. And a book won't stand your pressure on it. If you put it in vertical like that, it will collapse. So it depends. Try with the book if you don't want to buy a block, of course, and see if you find it helpful for you. And if not, get yourself a block. A block can be used to, first and foremost, help with flexibility. So if you're not very flexible, you cannot reach the floor, it doesn't matter. First of all, you can work towards it, but if you can't and you'll never reach the floor, it's fine, because blocks are there to help you out. So a way to do that, for example, in a seat, if you can't sit like I am, you can just place a block underneath your bum and elevate your seat. If this is still too difficult for you and for your body, and place two blocks underneath your seat, and this will elevate your hips and create more space for you to sit. We often sit at the beginning of a class, and sometimes we kneel when we sit, so you can again place a block underneath. And what this does, it opens up the hip creases a little bit, so it's not as challenging. If we are in halfway lift and you cannot reach the floor, you can always have the blocks, and I suggest to practice with two blocks on either side of your mat. And so when we come to halfway lift at the front of the mat, we can have the blocks to help us out, rather than trying to reach the floor, and it becomes super difficult. So always have the blocks. Let's say we are in a low lunge. So we step back. I am comfortable in this position, but if you are not and you are here struggling, you can place the blocks on whichever setting, underneath your hands, or medium setting, or if this is still too challenging for you, on the highest setting. And this will be your pose. It helps with alignment, which is always great, and it helps with your practice. Both beginners and experienced yogis use them, so there's definitely nothing wrong in using blocks. I see many people tend to be a bit hesitant sometimes in class. Let's see another pose, triangle pose. Triangle pose is quite challenging for most of us, and it can be quite painful without a block, because we are here. My arm is out of frame, sorry, but we are here and we are trying to find a support. So we are feeling a lot of tension in our side. Maybe we are even turning towards the floor, trying to reach the floor, and we are compromising the pose. Once we place a block, inside or outside, doesn't really matter. I like to place it outside of just my ankle, and then place a hand on top of the block, or even on the highest setting, and in this way we can properly rotate the hips, rotate the torso, look up, and perform triangle properly. And this goes with many poses. So blocks help with flexibility. Do use them. The second point is that blocks help with strength, and this comes at all times in practice, but generally when you start to perform arm balances or inversions. I don't perform many inversions in my practice, to be honest, but I do like arm balances. So what happens with the blocks? If we are trying to get into a press handstand and we are here and we cannot place our hips on top of our shoulders, then the blocks can come in handy. and we place them underneath our feet. We step on top of the blocks, and it's much easier access to then go on handstand. On the other way, if we are trying to perform an arm balance and we find really difficult to bring our knees up, let's say for a crow pose or for something else, you can place the block underneath your hands so that the arm balance it's a little bit more accessible. This is a very personal choice whether to use them or not. Some people like them, some people hate them for arm balances. I personally don't use them anymore, but I sometimes like to change it up. So again, try it out and see what's good for you. And tying up to this point in arm balances, blocks are really good for fear of falling. So let's say we practice crow. Crow pose is the most common of all arm balances. It's often called during class and it's scary. It is a relatively easy arm balance in the way that it's the first one that most people learn. But it can be terrifying because we are right on the edge of our hands and it feels like we are falling on the floor, and sometimes we do. So instead of trying crow pose without a block, we place it just in front of our face on the highest setting. And what happens is that when we get into crow, I should put it a little bit forward. So I perform my crow here at practice, and I have the feeling that even if I fall, the block is gonna catch me. And the block is gonna catch you, that's right, and maybe it will slow down your fall, but not having the floor right in front of your eyes, and instead of having a block or two, you can make yourself a mini wall of blocks, and so fall on two rather than one. It will make you feel more confident in your practice, and that is really, really important because sometimes it's just a mental block and you can do the arm balance but you're scared of it. And the last point is relaxation. Yoga blocks help with relaxation. So today I haven't practiced yet, so I am not very flexible at this point, but let's say I want to as a butterfly pose forward fold, and I cannot reach all the way down my feet, or I don't want to reach all the way down on my feet and I just want to have a little bit more restorative pose. So I can put one block underneath my forehead or two in whichever way I want them to be, and then place my forehead on the blocks and stay in this pose like this. And in this way, you can surrender the body to the pose, you can let your neck relax, your shoulder relax, and the pose becomes easier. So this is a simple and short guide on how to use yoga blocks. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you find it informative. Let me know how you go and let me know if you do use them in your practice, how you use them, and yeah, so I'll see you next time, and leave me a comment down below on this video on YouTube or on my blog, and happy practicing!